Hello and welcome to another edition of Anime Reviews featuring me, the Vault Dweller of the Fallout Experiment. Now today I come asking one question and one question only. How many of us love westerns? Now that everybody has answered with a resounding yes, we can get into this review. You see, westerns are pretty great. They have awesome guns, blood, killing, the desert. What's not to love about that? So, how would a space western be? Space western. So, all the guns, all the dust, all the cards and all the intriguing characters, and space. Kind of. See, today we're talking about Trigun, if you didn't know from the title. And Trigun is an anime that came out in the late 90s, and it's a space western, kind of. More or less, it takes place on a planet called Gunsmoke. Cheesy name. That humans went to. And without trying to spoil too much of it, I'm going to talk a little bit about Trigun and why I would recommend it to anybody who likes westerns and likes anime. You see, Trigun follows the character of Vash the Stampede, who has a $60 billion award on his head. And when you first meet this character, you almost don't see why. He looks badass, but once he's in combat, you're just like, okay, so this guy's kind of an idiot. Well, as you'll see later, when the situation isn't a threat to him or he doesn't perceive it to be serious, he's very laid back about everything. The best comparison I have is Kenshin Himura from Rurouni Kenshin. You remember how in Rurouni Kenshin was kind of the country bumpkin, spoke like Yoda in the English dub and was really just kind of a goofy dude. However, as soon as something bad was about to happen, his entire attitude changed, and no longer was he this guy that just liked to fuck around and have fun and make rice cakes. He drew his sword. He looked, and his eyes made it look like you could tell he wanted to kill you. A lot of people, he got the name the Manslayer because he was so good, and because he had a bloodlust in his eye when he wanted to. And there are even a couple episodes in Rurouni Kenshin where people are paralyzed in fear because he just goes from being this really sweet and nice dude to being this really, really intense, holy fucking shit, this guy looks like he wants to slit my throat and drink my blood kind of guy. And I always really like the duality of that, because there's the struggle of who he wants to be and who, to a degree, he is. But anyway, that's kind of what the character of Vash is. He's very fun, He exaggerates a lot and isn't very serious. However, when situations call for it, he's very intense, very good with a gun, and very nice. Now, as this show starts out, you think, okay, so this guy's a pacifist, and he has a $60 million reward on his head because there's a city that disappeared called July. And so you don't really know a lot what's going on, but it's a very fun ride. The show is very humorous, sometimes a little over the top, but very fun, very funny, and it's just a fun show to watch and enjoyable. And then stuff starts to happen in it when he meets this guy named Legato. I can't pronounce his name. He's a blue-haired dude in a town who works for Knives. Now, you don't really know who Knives is, and I'm not really going to get into it, but he works for Knives, and he's kind of come to this town, and he freaks Vash out. Like, he changes from being chill to being very, very on edge, and there's even a part in the anime and in the manga where this Legato guy grabs this little girl's head after giving her a hot dog, and Vash freaks the fuck out. And Legato just laughs it off, like, "Ah, that was priceless. I didn't think you were gonna do that. You're funny," and because of that, you can kind of see how scary this guy is, and it worry. And he goes through this whole spiel about making Vash's life a living hell. And with that, once that starts, you can kind of see that while you can rally around Vash being this pacifist kind of guy, you got to wonder if that's really as good as it seems. Now, no longer talking about Vash or how the story kind of progresses from being really fun to not as much fun anymore. The other characters in the show besides Vash, and Vash is a very good character who carries a lot of this show on his shoulders, and not in a bad way. The plot for the show is very, very good, but Vash is moves it forward in a very unique and interesting way. The other characters, Millie and Meryl from the insurance agency that follow him around, are pretty interesting too. The only bad words I have to say about Meryl, she suffers from that comic relief style of loudmouthed and kind of has an attitude girl, kind of like Rukia or Sakura, but they're both they have their own weapons. Millie, the taller one, has a giant motherfucking stun gun that she just whips around, and Meryl has a bunch of Behringer pistols, just a bunch of them, and they both have very distinct personalities, Millie being more lighthearted and occasionally ditzy, and Meryl being serious to the point of being uptight almost. But they have very good impacts on Vash, and later another character named Nicholas D. Wolfwood comes into the show as well, claiming to be a priest, and his story is really interesting, and like Vash, he's a bit of an enigma, and while he is at odds with Vash's pacifism and everything, those two are very close friends, and the Millie and Meryl have a very unique and interesting impact on the two of them that I don't think the show couldn't do without that. It would fall apart without those four characters. The show would fall apart, and all of the enemies are written well. All of every character you need that is important to the story is written well. Occasionally there's one character in there and it's a little but pretty much all your main characters and your main antagonists and even a lot of your side characters are done really well, and everybody has a unique flavor to them, and they all do very well as voice actors actually, and especially in the English version of Trigun they do very well. Very, very well. Two fun facts about the voice actors. The voice actor for Vash the Stampede in the English version also voice acts Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach, which you can kind of hear. You can always hear Ichigo's voice. And Ichigo was a black Power Ranger, by the way. So you know. Ichigo is a Power Ranger. Also, Legato, the blue-haired guy, is voiced by Kenshin Himura from Rurouni Kenshin, which I find really interesting that he is in that role. So, yeah, the characters really are very well voiced and very well done in this show. As far as music goes with Trigun, it's pretty great, actually. Every soundtrack is memorable, both mixing to fit the mood, as well as the fact that it's a Western, so that means you get some really cool, slidey blues, just sexiness, which is always good. In fact, there are a couple songs that I almost feel like sound like a more spaced out White Stripes. So if you like the White Stripes, there are a couple instrumental tracks there that are really interesting. And they all have a bit of avant-garde to them. Not an extreme amount, but there's a little, you can tell that these people are influenced just slightly by experimenting with a little things. It's very, very minimal when they do that, and it's usually just to accent a couple of things, but it's still there, and that's really interesting too. And it really adds not only to the mood, but to the atmosphere of the show itself, which I find really interesting. So overall, Trigun's probably one of the greatest animes I've ever seen, and again, is probably up there in my top 5 or 10 lists. absolutely amazing. Great character development, really good action. It's funny. It's got a really cool and interesting setting, and there are a lot of reveals and a lot of interesting issues that pop up in this show. So I would absolutely recommend it to anybody out there who likes westerns and likes space, because this is the best of both worlds with a little bit of the old west saloon go shoot 'em up kind of western feel with the kind of spacey steampunkish, I don't know what, the it's got a certain je ne sais quoi to it, I guess, but man, is it good. And like any good western, there's a lot of killing and there's a lot of good characters. So anyway, top recommendations for Trigun, and that's it for now, guys. See ya.